Welcome to Act Out. I'm Eleanor Goldfield, and this is your tipping point. Before we get into some low-life scum awarding, I want to quickly discuss the announcement from last week that the Department of Justice will be ending their use of private prisons. The news came after a striking report from the Justice Department's Office of the Inspector General found that, in a nutshell, federal prisons run by private prison companies aren't just less safe and less secure than their publicly run counterparts. They're also inadequately supervised by the Federal Bureau of Prisons, which has outsourced the incarceration of 12% of its inmates to three giant for-profit prison companies, while allowing gaps in oversight that endangered inmates and put their rights at risk. In the DOJ's announcement of their decision last Thursday, Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates added to that, saying that they simply do not provide the same level of correctional services, programs, and resources, and they do not save substantially on costs. Now, since the announcement, many have been quick to point out that this decision only affects 13 prisons, and by a count from December of last year, about 22,600 inmates, which equals about 12% of the Bureau of Prisons' inmate population. Furthermore, the facilities were meant mainly to house inmates who are mostly low security, criminal alien men with 90 months or less time remaining on their sentences. And furthermore, it will take years for these private institutions to switch over, and no private prison contract will be terminated early, so in all likelihood, this abuse and corruption that we've found in both the Justice Department and the Mother Jones' extensive expose on a CCA prison in Louisiana will continue until these contracts are fully terminated. And finally, furthermore, this decision does not affect state prisons, where most of the U.S.'s inmates are housed, nor does it affect ICE and U.S. Marshal Service detainees, who, in a clusterfuck twist of oversight, are technically in the federal system, but not under the scope of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. So, with all of this in mind, does it matter? Do we just say, fuck it, throw up our hands and pretend that this decision means nothing, that it's just not good enough? No. And let me tell you why. First of all, this will actually affect real people's lives. Yes, it's not the whole private prison industrial complex brought to its knees, but it's 22,000 plus lives worth. And that flows into point number 2. Placing things in focus and in context. Does it mean that our prisons will suddenly become beacons of rehabilitation where inmates do yoga and bake cakes like they do in Scandinavia? No, obviously not. Is this an epic leap to equality, justice, and peace? No, but it's a step. If you only ever look at things through the global lens of complete systemic change and ultimate utopia, you're going to have one fuck of a disappointing life. And while it's important that we recognize the amount of work still left for us, and perhaps more importantly the fact that the DOJ is certainly no friend to justice, we have to acknowledge this as a progressive step, an important one. One that can, as the ACLU pointed out, prompt state institutions to follow suit, as they frequently look to their federal counterparts for best practices on prisons. And finally, this matters because we need to recognize when our fights yield positive results. There's no such thing as immediate and complete gratification in our fights for justice. We need to use small victories like this one as fuel and inspiration to keep fighting and to fight harder. This is certainly not the end of our fight. There really is no end to the fight for justice. But this is, again, an important step, one that still holds up when viewed in the greater context of our ongoing battles, and one that deserves a solid fuck yeah from activists across the country. So, fuck yeah.